Hello, good afternoon to everybody on Facebook. Ivanna Ruger here on Pathways to Health series. It's Friday afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a nutritionist, personal trainer, biohacker, and passionate about all things health and wellness. And I network with a range of health professionals to chat about what they do and increase the awareness on how we can really improve our health from different areas. I'm now working in the field of nutrigenomics and anti-aging, and I'm really excited about the guest that I've got on here today because she's a wonderful, very inspiring lady. Her name's Janice Williams, and she's a counselor and she specializes in mother and daughter relationships. And I'm so glad that I connected with her because, you know, for myself, I've got a beautiful relationship with my mum and I feel so blessed and so grateful. And, you know, our relationships definitely have an impact on our health. And so if we can have great relationships in our lives, it makes a big difference to ourselves. So without further ado, welcome, Janice. It's such a pleasure to have you on here.
Oh, thank you, Ivanna, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure completely. So can you share for the audience, perhaps just a little bit about yourself, your journey, how you became, practicing as a counselor and really focusing in on mother and daughter relationships?
Okay, look, I've been a counsellor and a coach for 20 years. I started working with families who struggled with their child's behaviour. And so when I talk to mums, they tell me about their difficult relationship with their own mothers. They might talk about their mums being critical of them or having high expectations of them. Others would say that their mother just wasn't emotionally available to them. I've also been talking with women who say that when they see their mum, they feel triggered by their mother. And it kind of takes them right back to when they were a little girl. So what I've done, mothers and daughters have difficulty often in feeling invisible within their relationship. And it's a dynamic that's developed over many years. So it hasn't just started just now at this point. It's been something that's created over many years. And it's about where one or both of the women, the mothers and the daughters, have felt not heard, they've felt undervalued, they've felt ignored, felt unsupported. And so when I'm looking at mothers and daughters, I'm looking at patterns within their relationship and also patterns within the family as well. Quite likely it goes back many generations. So when I'm seeing women, and I see women either on their own as an adult daughter, or I see mother and daughter couples together. And so quite likely their relationship goes back to the previous generation and to the previous generation before that as well too. So I look for the female line in the family because it's quite a complex relationship. And then I look at the impacts of that female line on the daughters now. And often women will say they don't want to repeat history with their own children, whether they have sons or daughters. They don't want to repeat that history as well too. They want to break that cycle of relationship. So they want to stop that cycle of insensitivity and hurtful responses to each other. What I found from my own personal experience with my own mum, I'm the youngest of 4 children. I'm the only girl, so I've got 3 older brothers. And I found, and some women find this, and I found personally, sometimes boys can be favoured more than the girls. And I found that my mother was super critical, particularly of myself. She'd criticise how I'd look, how I would dress, what I would say. It was almost everything about me. There was this criticism. And growing up, you can't take that on board and you think, well, what's wrong with me? Is there something really bad, really wrong with me? And it was only when many years later, as a young adult, that I ended up going off for counselling myself. And it was the counsellor who helped to put the pieces of the jigsaw, the puzzle pieces together. And the counsellor helped join the dots about what was going on in my relationship with my mum. And that helped me to be able to sort out, well, hang on, I'm not going to take the blame for this. But it also helped me to understand my mother as well, to be able to see that she had a really difficult childhood herself. And so did her mother, my grandmother. They had difficult childhoods, and they had a lot of unmet needs for themselves, and a lot of emotional neglect. And the way it comes out is that it can come out as criticism towards the daughter, or towards people in the family. And it can also spill out outside the family to the extended family members. And I find with some women, it can also affect their work relationships as well too. So there was all that there's a lot of dynamics that go on with the mother-daughter relationship. Just trying to think what else. It's more about the invisibility that women can feel. They can feel invisible to each other. And so when a woman's voice, if we're not heard, and if it's instilled in us to be silent, to be invisible within our family, then our thoughts and our feelings are not understood. And so if we're not heard and we're not being understood, if people just don't get us, then we can feel isolated and we feel unloved as well too. So it's being about in tune to another, to hearing another, to acknowledge the other person's existence. And that means, yeah, you do get them, you understand them at a deep level of who they are. And it's intricately linked to being loved, to be accepted, and it's all been part of belonging. We want to belong to a crowd, to our tribe, to our family. So it's all part of that as well too. So I think that might be it. I probably talked quite a bit.
As I always say, as practitioners, we go through our own journey and our own experience, and that's what makes us the practitioner that we are in our modality that we specialize in, because we've been through that healing journey of whatever it is to have that knowledge and that wisdom to be able to impart and share with other people. And I think that's so beautiful. So you work with your clients to really help them rebuild that relationship, I suppose, and really work on that inner child healing as well.
Yes.
I know that sometimes if we don't go through and do that inner healing work, we tend to just parent as we were parented, and that's where that intergenerational patterns start to repeat over and over again. And so it's really important, if we want to break those patterns, we do that healing for sure. So can you share what sort of techniques do you use in your sessions to work with your clients and help them do the healing work that needs to be done?
So initially I have that conversation in the first session. I want to find out the history. I like to be able to find out what's going on in the family. So I don't want to just be looking at the mother-daughter. I want to look at the women in the family, that female line, and go back to 3 generations. And so I will actually map out. So I'll make notes and map out what's going on with the mother from the previous generation, and then go back to the grandmother as well. I also look at the men in the family as well, because the men also impact the women in the family too. And it's really interesting. What I find is that women will often say that their dads or their partners, boyfriends, whoever, they're actually quiet people. They might go off to the shed for a while just to kind of vanish from the family home and let the mothers and the daughters kind of fight it out. So there they are arguing. So the men actually are absent in the family. So the men could go to the office and spend many hours at the office, not wanting to come home. So it's really interesting that there's that kind of dynamic that goes on. So that would be a technique where I'm mapping that history. I'm helping women to learn to voice their needs as well too. So it's looking at their unmet needs, and that can be about feeling belonging to their family or to a group of friends. So friendships are very important. It's feeling appreciated, it's feeling respected. So there's those kind of unmet needs. And so I look at that when I'm talking to women. I'm exploring the patterns within that generational family. And as we look at themes within the family and patterns, I'm kind of joining the dots. And I'm also asking the women to help me join these dots too, so that they can see patterns. And it's really interesting with some of the women that I see. It's like this light bulb moment. It's like aha, I see it now. Because I'm kind of drawing it out for them, and it is that light bulb moment. They're actually seeing what's been going on in previous generations as well too. I help women to understand the experience of growing up in their family too, to be valued in their relationships, but also it's important to set their boundaries as well too. And boundaries with some people, there are some people in the family that tend to cross boundaries quite regularly. And so it may mean having to keep setting those boundaries and being very firm with those boundaries. And then I'm also creating a roadmap for generational change as well. So, and it's not just me who's creating this. I'm talking to women and we create it together. I can give them ideas, but it's not a one size fits all. Each family is quite different. And so I'm helping them to be able to create a change for themselves, for their inner self, but also for their family as well, so that they can move forward. If they have children or if they don't as well, they can still move forward in their relationships as well too.
I love that. And I think that's important, because as you work with different women and different, mother-daughter relationships, everyone's got different, values and experiences, and to be able to, create that roadmap moving forward based on, that family's values and that mother-daughter relationship and what's unique to them is just so important. So can you share with the audience, for anyone that's tuning in right now or watching the replay, drop #replay, put in a heart if you've got a special relationship with your mum, or you'd like to rebuild and work on your relationship with your mum. For anyone that's sort of tuning in right now, can you share, what's some interesting sort of facts, or what have you sort of noticed, maybe as being reoccurring, or a theme that you've sort of seen as you work with women and those relationships that they have?
Yeah, I what is common is that women may say, look, I'm really assertive. I can be assertive in my workplace. I can be assertive with other people. In their families, they struggle because it's almost like we have a role to play in our family in a way. And many people, men and women, would say that when they go to visit the rellies, the parents, they go back and it's almost like they're slotting into that role of the little girl. Again, it's really interesting. I've done it myself with my family, so I'm not perfect. It's really interesting to just meet up with the family and then you get immediately slotted in, and it's almost like a bit like a trigger anyway. When women have talked about that trigger, it is a bit like a trigger when we go back, visit the family, and it's like that trigger with that little girl once again. So what I also find is that there's those unvoiced needs. They're women struggling to find their voice, such as feeling appreciated, being understood, feeling safe in the relationships within their family or with their partners. Often these feelings can be shoved down though. They've struggled to be able to voice their needs. And if they're not being heard by their partners or within their own family, the way that they handle it is to shove it down. The trouble is, when feelings are shoved down, it can come out in other ways, whether it's in passive aggressive behaviour, it can be in guilt tripping behaviour, criticism, I find, and controlling behaviour. They're things that kind of come out when we struggle with our own emotions, our own feelings. I'm just thinking, I'm just having a look at some of my notes here because I didn't want to miss some of these important things as well too, because I find that when a woman feels that she doesn't have a voice in her relationships, the silencing can create feelings of low self-worth. It can create anxiety, it can create stress, and they can get depression because they're not able, they're not being given permission to be able to express themselves. And again, they feel invisible. It's all about being invisible in relationships. And that's what I often see. And that's when women will have that aha moment. They see it in their families as well too. Now, I've mentioned the impact of men as well. Often it's there can be a history of sexism and patriarchy in generational families as well, where men can be quite central and quite dominant within the family, or they go off to their shed. They kind of escape. So you can kind of see too. And then there's also the abusive relationships as well too. So yes, it can go down to that patriarchy and who is head of the house as well. So it's looking at that and looking to find the woman's voice to be able to express herself in her family and with the people that she loves, so that she can be heard. And this is where conflict arises between mothers and daughters. If they feel that they are not being heard by people in their family, then they will fight to be heard, and that's when the conflict can start arising. There's also specific times in a daughter's life where these strong negative feelings can arise from the mother. So if a daughter, the adult daughter, if she moves out of home, if she's getting married, if she has a baby, it can trigger for the mother her own missed opportunities and her own unmet needs. So it can come out that the mother will be critical of her daughter, and it can be an unconscious thing that the mother is going through. She doesn't realise all this other stuff about unmet needs, unvoiced needs. And so what the daughter is hearing is criticism, criticism, criticism. And when it becomes too much, it can actually move towards estrangement, where the daughter feels, I can't handle this anymore. It's just too much. And for my own mental health, I need to have some separation from my mother to be able to support my own needs and support my own family that I have now too. So when a mother has not repaired her own relationship with herself, that's when the toxicity actually comes out. So that's when mothers also need to be able to sort out stuff for themselves. You know, come to me, you know, we can sort it out together as well. You know, people, we all need someone that we can talk to. We need families that we can talk to. And it's great when women do have that close relationship with their mum. It's good to have friendships as well to be able to talk to. But sometimes there are things that we feel that we need to hold back on, and then we need to talk to someone else, such as, you know, a counsellor, a coach, to be able to talk about these kind of relationships.
Absolutely. And I love what you just shared. And I think that's so true. You know, what you're essentially doing is really just, as I see it, is empowering women. You know, you're empowering the daughters to really be their best versions of themselves, and you're really on reconnecting that relationship that they've got with their mum and doing the healing work. And absolutely, even with the best relationships between, mothers and daughters or husbands and wives, having someone else to talk to sometimes definitely helps to get things off your chest. So I think that's amazing what you're doing, Janice. Can you share for everyone that's tuning in perhaps some tips that you would perhaps just suggest on implementing straight away from home?
Okay. Look, I mentioned about earlier on, and I've probably mentioned it a few times, about those unvoiced needs and unmet needs, because that's a big thing in relationships in general, whether it's mother-daughter, it can be in partnerships, and even in our workplaces. We like to be able to voice our opinion, voice our needs. So it crosses, a whole lot in relationships. So I guess ask yourself whether you're feeling heard by someone in a relationship. And if you feel unheard in that relationship, then ask yourself, how will I feel tonight if I've not spoken up for myself today? So it's kind of at nighttime, you're reflecting back on the day. How will I feel tonight if I haven't spoken up for myself today? That would be my first tip. The second tip is to be able to prioritize yourself, which is just so important. So it's asking yourself whether you're doing too much for other people and neglecting yourself. So again, it's asking yourself that question: how will I feel tonight if I continue to neglect myself today? So when you reflect back on your day, ask yourself the question, if I continue to neglect myself today, how will I feel about it tonight? The other thing is, and I also want to get onto about neglecting as well, because often with women, we're kind of in service to the family, and the family can be extended family. So we're caregivers to our children. We can be companions to our partners. We can be carers for our elderly parents as well too. So in doing all that, we're kind of putting ourselves aside and neglecting ourselves in the process. So, and I wanted to mention too, tomorrow is International Self-Care Day. So this has come out well. So it's a good prompt to prioritize us as women, prioritize ourselves. We need to fill our own tank up first before we can fill up the tank of others, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's extremely difficult to care for others on an empty tank. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that third tip too. Particularly in lockdown, many of us are experiencing lockdown. Don't forget to have fun though. Don't forget to chill. So I want to send that reminder out, that even if it's hard to get out, if you can get out for a 30-minute walk, that's terrific. Do that. But even if you're stuck at home, maybe even just do a silly dance around the home, just let loose and just dance around the house and, do all the weeby jibbies and whatever. Sing out loud, forget what the neighbours might hear you or think about you, the dogs in the district might, come along with you, but sing out loud, letting it out. You're actually letting your voice be heard as well too. Put on soft music. Close your eyes, concentrate on the smells, the sounds that you can hear when you close your eyes. Have a hot chocolate. You throw in a squishy marshmallow, just toss it into the mug. Take in the aroma of the drink, taste that gooey mallow. Do something crafty that you enjoy, whether it's sewing, making cards, writing. Do an enjoyable activity which actually takes you out of yourself to be able to think about something else as well too. So yeah.
And I think that's so important right now, because we are in lockdown and the stress level can be quite high, for a lot of people, or there's just a lot of just tension and angst in general. And so I think if we can, just be silly and laugh and take the situation as lightly as we possibly can, even though it's quite a heavy situation to be. It'll definitely help us get through so much better. So it's been such a pleasure connecting with you, Janice. I love everything that you're doing. Can you share with the audience how they can connect with you, how they can find you, how they can book in with you? Can you just, share all that information?
Okay, so I offer a free 20-minute discovery call. And so people can contact me through my website, and then we can connect via phone. And I can talk to people, I can talk to women about what the mother-daughter coaching is all about, and I can explain it further and how I can help them too. So I can ask what's going on for them. So I've got a website, and it's called Janice Williams Counselling Services. So it's www.Janice, Janice, so Janice Williams Counselling Services. You can also connect with me on Facebook, and that's Janice Williams Counselling Services. So it's not too hard. And also Instagram. I'm on Instagram as well. So that's Janice Williams Counselling. So you can also just go over there. So, and I do a blog. So the blog is on my website as well. And my latest blog is actually about what mother-daughter counselling is all about. So have a look at that as well too.
Wonderful. Yeah. That sounds great. And so, we'll drop the links into the comments as well, so you can just click on the link and go straight to the Facebook page or straight to the website and have a look and read the blog. Definitely reach out to Janice and book in your 20-minute discovery session with her, and look at how you can heal your inner child and heal your relationship with your mum, so you can be the best, most empowered version of yourself.
Yeah.
To everyone that's tuned in, thank you so much for your time today. Janice, it's been such a pleasure connecting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you all have a wonderful weekend ahead. Stay safe, be silly, have fun, and look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Bye.